The Christmas lights on our porch were still half out, blinking like they were trying to quit without making a scene. Inside, the house smelled like pine-scented detergent and the kind of tension that never makes it into family photos. The tree was up, the ornaments were up. The mood was down in the basement, tied to a chair, and gagged. Calla stood by the entryway with a small suitcase at her feet like she was waiting for an Uber. Not me, someone real. My stepdaughter, Marnie, was on the couch in her socks, scrolling on her phone with the intense focus of a teenager trying not to witness adult behavior. Every few seconds, she'd glance up, then snap her eyes back down, like she could erase the moment by refusing to see it. Calla didn't look at me. She looked past me, like the room was a hallway and I was a coat rack. "We're going," she said, crisp and final. I set the grocery bag on the counter and took out a carton of eggs like it mattered, like tomorrow morning was a normal day where people made omelets instead of memories they'd regret. "Where?" I asked. Calla exhaled through her nose, the sigh of someone who thinks they're dealing with a slow child. "To Eli." She said his name the way people say, the dentist, like it was unpleasant but necessary, like it was scheduled. Marnie's thumb froze on the screen for half a second. That told me everything. Kids are bad liars, but they're world-class at showing you where the landmines are. "Eli," I repeated, tasting it. The name wasn't new, it was just reintroduced, like an old employee who got promoted while you were on vacation. Calla finally looked at me, and her eyes had that polished shine, not watery, not emotional, just bright with adrenaline. "Christmas and New Year," she said. "I already told you." "You told me," I said slowly, "that you were taking Marnie to see her father for one day." Calla's mouth tightened in a smile that wasn't friendly. Plans changed. Of course they did. On the counter, my phone buzzed. A notification. Some app reminding me to drink water or track steps or whatever people do when their lives aren't actively collapsing. I didn't look at it. I didn't move. Calla leaned slightly toward Marnie, like she was shielding her, like I was dangerous now because I had eyebrows raised. "Marnie needs time with her real father," Calla said. "She misses him. She's been asking." That was the first lie, not the big one, just the warm-up. Marnie's face didn't change, but her foot started bouncing under the blanket, a nervous little metronome. "And you," Calla added, voice sharpening. "You've been here." Here, like I was a piece of furniture with a warranty that expired. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because my brain sometimes does that when it's trying not to do something worse. "I've been here," I repeated. "Right, in the home, that I pay for, with the mortgage, that exists in this dimension." Calla's eyes flashed. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "The sarcasm?" She said it like sarcasm was a character flaw, not my last remaining oxygen supply. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out Marnie's little winter hat, the one with a pom-pom on top. She handed it to her like this was all just logistics, like she wasn't carving my place out of the calendar with a dull knife. Marnie stood. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Calla. She looked at the floor. That teenage trick where you go limp emotionally and hope the adults stop being embarrassing. Calla kept her voice firm, like she was delivering a policy update. "I'm taking her to her real father, and you're just the stand-in," she said. "Deal with it, or file for divorce." There it was. The sentence landed in the room with the weight of something that had been practiced. The way the words stacked neatly. The way her tone didn't tremble. The way she didn't even check my face to see if I was bleeding. Stand-in, a substitute, a placeholder. The guy you use until the real thing shows up. I looked at her suitcase. I looked at the winter hat in Marnie's hands. Then I looked at Calla again and let my face go calm. No argument, no pleading, no, "we can talk about this." Just silence, because I finally understood something about Calla. She didn't fear my anger. She feared my quiet. Her expression flickered for a half second, like a light bulb trying to decide whether to burn out. Then she recovered. "Good," she said, like I'd passed a test. "So we're clear." I nodded once. Marnie shifted her weight like she wanted to evaporate. Calla grabbed the suitcase handle and stepped toward the door. She paused at the threshold and glanced back with the satisfaction of someone who believes they've won a negotiation. "Don't call," she said. "Don't make this harder." I stared at her a moment longer than normal, just to watch the confidence in her face start to itch. Then I said, softly, "Have fun." She blinked. "What?" Christmas, I added. New Year, family time, the full experience. She didn't like that. I could see it, the way her fingers tightened on the suitcase handle. Marnie slipped on her boots, still not meeting my eyes. Calla opened the door. Cold air rushed in, sharp and clean, like the outside world didn't care what was happening in my kitchen. The porch light cast a thin yellow triangle onto the snow. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked once and stopped, like even it understood the vibe. As they stepped out, Calla's phone buzzed in her hand. She checked it immediately. Her thumb moved fast. Too fast. She didn't see me watching. Or maybe she did, and she didn't care anymore. The door closed. The quiet after was not peaceful. It was surgical. I stood there for a full minute, staring at the spot where her suitcase had been, like the carpet might confess something. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. An email notification, flagged in my inbox from weeks ago, buried under newsletters and work updates and the usual junk we pretend isn't slowly burying us alive. Subject line, Australia transfer. Final offer. I stared at it until the letters stopped being letters and became a door. I'd refused it for years. Always the same excuse: marriage, family, stability, Marnie's school, Calla's career, our life. Our life. I tapped the email. The details were still there, the offer still valid, but with a deadline, a relocation package, a housing arrangement, a clean, simple exit disguised as a promotion. I read it once, then again, slower. Then I did the thing Calla never expected me to do. I didn't react emotionally. I reacted strategically. I opened my laptop, logged into the company portal, found the transfer form. My cursor hovered over the acceptance button. For the first time in a long time, the house felt honest, empty of performance, empty of pretending. Just me, a blinking tree, and a decision. I clicked accept. A confirmation window popped up. Processing. Please wait. The lights on the porch blinked again. 2 weak flashes, then darkness. And in that little pocket of quiet, something inside me settled. Not sadness, alignment. Because now there was a timeline. And whatever Calla thought she was doing to me, she had just handed me a week where she wouldn't be watching my hands. The screen finished loading. Transfer confirmed. Welcome to Sydney. I leaned back in my chair and smiled to myself, small and private. Deal with it, I whispered to the empty kitchen. Then I started making a list. The office after hours always smelled like burnt coffee and ambition that had missed its window. Most people think quiet offices are peaceful. They're not. They're honest. Every keyboard click echoes. Every footstep sounds like it's confessing something. I took the elevator to the 23rd floor alone. No small talk, no polite nods. Just the soft mechanical whine of a building that had seen thousands of careers begin and end without so much as a sympathy card. The lights flicked on row by row as I walked past empty desks. Family photos face down, jackets draped over chairs like their owners had stepped out for air and never come back. I stopped at my desk and opened my laptop. 3 new emails. One from HR. One from my regional director. One automated confirmation already logged into the system, cheerful in that corporate way that pretends this isn't the point where people quietly change their lives forever. I clicked HR first. We were surprised, but pleased to receive your acceptance. Surprised. That word again. Everyone always seemed surprised when I stopped playing my assigned role. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Linda Kessler in a glass-walled conference room that had been designed to feel transparent and somehow accomplished the opposite. Linda was efficient in the way only someone who had watched too many people cry at this table could be. Early 50s, perfect posture, a pen aligned precisely with the edge of her folder. So, she said, smiling professionally, Australia. I nodded. Looks like it. She studied me for a beat too long. HR people are trained to notice things without acknowledging them. Red eyes, no ring, the kind of stillness that doesn't come from calm. You've declined this transfer 3 times, she said. Marriage, family considerations. Those changed. Linda didn't ask how. Another small mercy. She slid a folder across the table. The role is expanded. Regional authority over operations. Temporary housing provided. 6 months minimum, possibly longer. I flipped through the pages slowly. Dates, clauses, fine print. One line made my fingers stop. Asset management authority during relocation, I read aloud. Linda nodded. Standard. While you're abroad, you'll have discretionary control over shared financial obligations tied to your employment package. Shared. That word hung there, suddenly heavier than it had any right to be. So, I said, keeping my voice even, if there are changes at home? She met my eyes. Then the authority remains with you, for stability. Stability, another word people like to use right before everything collapses. I signed. The pen felt heavier than it should have. Or maybe that was just the realization settling in that this wasn't a trip. It was a pivot. When I stood to leave, Linda hesitated, just a fraction of a second. For what it's worth, she said quietly, your wife already asked about international relocation policies last month. I stopped. Asked how? I said. Linda chose her words carefully. General questions, benefits, timing, whether transfers could be expedited in personal circumstances. Personal circumstances. I smiled, thin and controlled. Of course she did. Back at my desk, I packed exactly what mattered. Laptop, notebook, passport. Nothing sentimental. I'd learned the hard way that sentimental things don't travel well. My phone buzzed. Calla, I let it ring out. Then a text. Did you see the transfer email? I stared at the message for a long moment. Interesting. She hadn't asked why, or when, just whether I'd seen it. I typed back, yes. 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. We should talk before you make any decisions. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I locked my phone and shut down my computer. As I walked toward the elevator, I passed the security desk. Ron, the night guard, gave me a nod. The same nod he'd given me for years. A man who knew everyone's schedule and none of their secrets. Late night, he said. Yeah, I replied. Big changes. The elevator doors closed. On the ride down, my phone buzzed again. This time I didn't look at it. I watched the floor numbers tick by instead. 22, 21, 20. Each one felt like shedding something I'd been carrying because I thought I was supposed to. Outside, the rain had started. Fine, steady, the kind that soaks you without drama. I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine. Calla's name lit up the screen again. A call this time. I answered. What did you do? She asked immediately. No hello. No warmth. Just calculation. I accepted the transfer, I said. Silence. Then, carefully. Why would you do that now? I looked at the office building reflected in my windshield. All that glass. All those people pretending their lives weren't stitched together by timing and fear. Because, I said, you told me to deal with it. Another pause. Longer this time. That wasn't what I meant, she said. I smiled, alone in the car. It was exactly what you meant. Her voice sharpened. This affects Marnie. Everything affects Marnie, I said. You didn't seem too concerned when you packed her bag. She exhaled hard. You're being dramatic. No, I said calmly. I'm being efficient. She started to say something else. I cut the call. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof like applause from a crowd that had finally decided which side it was on. I drove home through streets already half forgotten by winter, past houses glowing with warm lights and curated happiness. Ours was dark when I arrived. Inside, the silence was thicker than before. The tree still blinked. One ornament had fallen and rolled under the couch. I left it there. I opened my laptop again, this time at the kitchen table. New email. Subject, relocation timeline. Immediate action required. I clicked it. 7 days. That's all it gave me. 7 days to leave. 7 days where Calla would assume I was panicking, scrambling, reacting. 7 days where she wouldn't notice what I was quietly putting in order. My phone buzzed again. This time multiple notifications. Missed calls. Texts stacking up. I didn't open them. Instead, I opened a fresh document and typed a single line at the top. 7 days. Under it, I started writing names. Dates, movements, not revenge, preparation. Because the thing about being a stand-in is this. You learn how the real thing works, and once you do, you stop auditioning. The parking garage under Calla's building always smelled like concrete dust and old oil, like nothing good ever lingered there for long. I shouldn't have been there. That was the first thought. The second was worse. I already knew I would be. I sat in my car with the engine off, watching the elevator doors at the far end of the level. Midnight blue sedan 2 spots down. Same one I'd seen in the driveway more than once and never bothered to question, because trusting someone is just laziness with better PR. The elevator chimed. Calla stepped out first. She was laughing. Not the polite public laugh she used with coworkers, but the loose one. The one she used when she forgot to manage herself. Her coat was open despite the cold. Her phone was already in her hand, screen glowing. Then Eli followed. There he was. Real. Solid. Annoyingly ordinary. He was taller than me by maybe an inch. Athletic in a way that suggested routine, not discipline. Clean coat, expensive shoes already scuffed at the toes. The kind of man who liked the idea of chaos, but only when it bent toward him. He said something to her I couldn't hear. She swatted his arm lightly, smiling. That was new. They stopped near his car. Too close. Not touching, but close enough that the air between them looked crowded. I stayed still, watched, let my brain do its quiet filing. Eli leaned in and said something again. Calla rolled her eyes, a gesture I knew well. But she didn't step back. She tilted her head instead, exposing her neck without thinking. He reached out and adjusted her scarf. Not a grab, not a kiss. Just the casual intimacy of someone who believed he belonged there. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. There it was. The thing people always imagine is dramatic. It wasn't. No soundtrack, no slow motion, just a small, unmistakable action that rewrote the last 5 years of my life. Calla glanced around the garage then. Her eyes skimmed the space the way prey does. Quick, automatic, practiced. She didn't see me. Eli opened his car door. He paused before getting in, resting one hand on the roof, leaning toward her again. "You sure?" he asked. Calla sighed. "I told you. Christmas, New Year, he's gone." Gone. Eli smiled at that. Good. That word landed harder than anything else he could have said. She laughed again, softer this time. Then she stepped back, finally creating space. She waved him off like she was dismissing a cab. Eli got into the car, still smiling. He didn't rush. He checked his phone before starting the engine, a man with no reason to hurry. As he pulled out, his headlights swept across my windshield for half a second. Our eyes met, just briefly. Recognition flickered in his face. Not guilt, not fear, calculation. He'd seen me before, family photos on a desk, a mention in conversation, a role he hadn't expected to encounter in the wild. He drove past me slowly, then turned the corner and disappeared up the ramp. Calla stood alone now, scrolling through her phone, expression already resetting, the laugh gone, the posture shifting back into control. She walked toward the elevator without looking around again. I waited until she was gone before starting my engine. I didn't follow her. I didn't confront her. I didn't do anything cinematic. Instead, I did something useful. I followed Eli. Not close. Never close. 2 turns back. A red light between us. Enough distance to look accidental. He drove like someone who liked to be seen. No sudden moves. No paranoia. Straight streets. Well-lit intersections. A neighborhood that advertised safety the way restaurants advertise cleanliness. Loudly and often. He parked in front of a townhouse with a trimmed hedge and a decorative wreath still hanging crookedly from December. Someone had already stopped caring. I didn't get out. I noted the address, the parking habits, the way he checked his mirrors, not enough. A light came on inside his place. A silhouette crossed the window, phone to ear, laughing again. I sat there for another minute, then drove away. Back home, the house greeted me with the same empty quiet it had mastered overnight. I poured a glass of water I didn't drink and stood at the counter, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. Calla. I let it ring. Then a text. "Where are you?" I typed back. "Out." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "We need to talk." I looked at the wall clock. 11:47 p.m. "Tomorrow," I wrote. "Big day." I turned the phone face down. On the table, my laptop was still open to the document I'd started the night before. 7 days. I added a new line underneath. Eli, confident, careless, thinks he won. I closed the laptop and finally drank the water. Because now I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't reacting. I was planning, and I had reduced the mystery down to a man, a garage, and a smile that didn't belong to him. And that made everything much simpler. Australia didn't feel far until the second night. The first night was logistics, jet lag, unfamiliar light switches, the hollow echo of a furnished apartment designed to offend no one and impress even less. Beige walls, neutral art, a couch that looked like it had never been chosen, only assigned. The second night was when the silence got ambitious. Outside, the city hummed in a lower register than home, softer, like it didn't need to prove anything. I stood at the window with a glass of water, watching headlights slide through intersections with the confidence of people who assumed tomorrow would arrive on schedule. My phone lay on the counter, face up. I hadn't blocked Calla. That would have been dramatic. She would have felt important. Instead, I answered selectively. Short replies. Delayed timing. The emotional equivalent of a bad signal. Her messages came in clusters. Did you land? You didn't tell me you were leaving this fast. Marnie keeps asking when you're coming back. That one almost got me. Almost. Because buried under it was the thing she didn't say. Eli is nervous. I replied an hour later. Landed. Busy tomorrow? True. Just not in the way she meant. At the office, the days were clean and sharp. New building, new badge, new title, people said carefully, like it had weight. Meetings stacked back to back, accents colliding politely, everyone pretending this was normal. I let them believe it. What I actually did was observe. Time zones are useful when you want to see who forgets what time it is. Calla forgot often. She called when she shouldn't, texted when she thought I'd be asleep. She slipped. On Tuesday, she mentioned a dinner I hadn't told her about canceling. On Wednesday, she asked if I'd spoken to someone I hadn't spoken to in weeks. On Thursday, she complained about traffic in a part of town she had no reason to be in anymore. Patterns form when people think distance protects them. By Friday, I had a rhythm: wake early, gym, office, dinner alone, calls unanswered, notes updated. My list grew, not accusations, movements, times, addresses, overlaps. Then, late Saturday night, early morning for me, the phone rang. Not a text, not a check-in, a call. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello? Her voice hit me raw. No warm-up, no control. I need you, Calla said. I closed my eyes slowly, the way you do when a wave finally breaks where you knew it would. What's wrong? I asked. Silence. Then a breath that shook. He hasn't come home, she said. He, not Eli, not your friend, just he. When? I asked. Last night. He said he was going to meet someone about his car. I pictured the garage, the smile, the way confidence leaks when it's punctured. Did he call you? I asked. Yes, no, earlier, then nothing. I glanced at the clock. 3:12 a.m. You're in the house? I asked. Yes, she said quickly. Too quickly. I came back early. I let the silence stretch. Thought what? I said. That this would be easier if you weren't there, she snapped, then immediately softened. I didn't mean, Her words started stacking, tumbling over each other. Apologies tangled with excuses. Fear trying to dress itself up as urgency. He said something went wrong, she said. He sounded scared. I leaned against the counter and let her talk. When she finally stopped, I said calmly, What do you want me to do? Another pause, longer. I need you to come back, she said. Please? There it was. Not love, not regret. Utility? When? I asked. Now, she said. As soon as you can. I pictured her in the house. Lights on, curtains half drawn, phone clenched too tight. I'll see what I can do, I said. She exhaled in relief. Thank you. I knew you wouldn't abandon us. I didn't correct her. After the call ended, I stood very still. Then I walked to the desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up my itinerary. Flights available, connections, timing. I booked the earliest one that got me home the next night. Not immediately. Soon enough. My phone buzzed again, a new message, unknown number. You should tell your wife to stop calling. I stared at the screen, heart steady, then another message. This isn't what she thinks it is. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I added a final line to my list before closing the laptop. Panic confirmed, returning on my terms. Outside, the city kept breathing, and somewhere very far away, two people were realizing at the same time that the stand-in had stopped waiting for cues. Airports are honest places. Everyone's either running towards something or away from it, and nobody pretends otherwise. I moved through Sydney's terminal with the calm of a man who had already made peace with the outcome. Backpack light, phone silent. Boarding pass loaded and ready like a weapon that didn't need to be explained. On the plane, I took the window seat. I like knowing which direction I'm moving, even if the view is just cloud and engine and distance. I didn't sleep. I reviewed the messages again, the timing, the way Calla's panic had slipped through her composure like a crack in ice. He hasn't come home? Something went wrong. He sounded scared. Eli didn't scare easily. Men like him outsource fear. To other people, to consequences they assume will land elsewhere. That meant whatever had happened wasn't theoretical. We landed in the gray, early morning quiet that makes cities look guilty before they wake up. I didn't text Calla. I didn't announce myself. I picked up a rental car instead of driving home. Distance first, observation second. Her house was lit when I pulled up a block away. Too lit, every room awake, curtains half open like she'd been checking the street every 5 minutes. I didn't go in. I drove past. Eli's neighborhood came next. The townhouse was dark, no car, no movement. The wreath still crooked, like a detail left behind on purpose. I parked down the street and waited. 15 minutes, then headlights. Not his sedan, a tow truck. I smiled despite myself. The truck backed into the driveway with practiced indifference. Chains rattled, metal groaned. A car emerged from the shadows, Eli's, lifted like it had finally been called out on its own confidence. The driver scribbled paperwork, slapped a sticker on the window. Lien notice, clean, legal, temporary, not sabotage, not damage, just inconvenience with teeth. I took photos from a distance, not for leverage, for memory, because this wasn't the end. It was punctuation. I drove away before the truck finished pulling out. Calla's street again. This time I parked. She opened the door before I rang the bell, like she'd been watching the driveway through a crack in the curtain. Her face collapsed when she saw me. Relief first, then calculation trying to reassert itself. "Thank God," she said, pulling me into a hug that didn't land. I didn't know what else to do. I let my arms stay at my sides for a beat too long, then I returned it lightly, just enough to feel normal to her. "What happened?" I asked. She stepped back and started talking immediately, like the truth might get away if she didn't trap it in words. "He said there was a misunderstanding. Something about paperwork, someone overreacted. He went to talk to them and then... nothing. His car's gone. His phone's off." She looked at me like I was supposed to fix gravity. "Why are you calm?" she asked suddenly. I tilted my head. "Should I be panicking?" "Yes," she snapped, then softened again. "I mean, this is serious." "For him," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," I replied evenly, "that if Eli has a problem, Eli should solve it." She flinched at his name, a small thing, but real. "You don't understand," she said. "This could ruin him." I met her gaze. People are surprisingly resilient. She studied my face, searching for something. Anger, hurt, accusation. I gave her none. Inside, the house looked the same, tree still blinking, ornaments still under the couch. But the air had shifted, heavy now, pressurized. "Did you talk to him?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Her breath caught. "When?" "Recently." She swallowed. "What did he say?" "That he should tell you to stop calling," I replied. Her face drained of color. "You spoke to him," she whispered. "I listened," I corrected. "There's a difference." She took a step back, then another, like the floor had tilted. "This isn't fair," she said. I nodded. "It rarely is." My phone buzzed then. Right on time. A text from Eli. "We need to talk. Now." I looked at Calla. She was watching my face like a verdict. "I'm going out," I said. "Where?" she asked, voice tight. I picked up my coat. "To check on someone who's having a rough morning." She grabbed my arm. Harder than she meant to. "Don't do anything stupid," she said. I looked down at her hand, then back up at her eyes. "I won't," I said. "I promise." And for the first time since this started, that was true. Outside, the morning had finally arrived. Pale, indifferent, honest. I walked to the car, phone already ringing again. Eli. I answered as I pulled away from the curb. "You really shouldn't have gotten involved," he said. I smiled into the empty street. "You really shouldn't have assumed I wasn't already." And as I drove toward the address he sent, I understood something clearly, cleanly, without emotion. This wasn't about catching them. It was about finishing what they'd started. And I was right on schedule. Eli picked a neutral place. Coffee shop off a service road, glass walls, people everywhere. Men who feel cornered always do. I parked across the street and watched him pace on the sidewalk, phone pressed to his ear, running his free hand through his hair like he could scrub the problem out. He saw me and froze. Good sign. I crossed the street slowly. No rush. Let him feel the weight. "You went too far," he said the second I stopped in front of him. "Did I?" I asked. "Your car seems to think otherwise." His jaw tightened. "That was you." I shrugged. "That was paperwork." People walked past us, strollers, suits. A woman laughed too loud at nothing, life doing what it always does when someone's world is shrinking. You scared her, he said. She's panicking. I know, I replied. That's how I knew this worked. He stepped closer, voice low. You touch anything else, I leaned in just enough that he smelled my aftershave. Calm, ordinary, not angry. You won't, I said. Because if you do, the next inconvenience won't roll away on 4 wheels. His eyes flicked around. Windows, phones, witnesses. I took out my phone, unlocked it, showed him the screen for half a second. A photo of his driveway. Time-stamped. Not a threat. A reminder. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. Stay away from my house, I said. Stay away from my wife. And if you think this is the worst part. I smiled, small and polite. It isn't. I turned and walked away before he could answer. Behind me, he didn't follow. That told me everything. By the time I got back in my car, my phone buzzed. Calla. I didn't answer. Because fear, once introduced properly, doesn't need supervision. And Eli had just learned the most important lesson of his life. Confidence is only useful until someone checks the locks. The house felt smaller when I walked in, like it had already started choosing sides. Calla was in the kitchen, phone in her hand, not crying exactly, more like leaking. Tears slipping out when she wasn't actively holding them back. The kind of breakdown that happens when confidence finally realizes it misread the room. She looked up fast. Where were you? Too sharp, defensive, late. Taking care of something, I said, hanging my jacket neatly. That small, calm gesture irritated her more than anger would have. You talked to him, she said. Not a question. Yes. Her jaw tightened. What did you do? I pulled the chair back and opened my laptop on the table. No drama, no speech, just the screen, angled toward her, numbers, status changes, access notes, temporary restrictions. She stared. For a few seconds, nothing registered. Then her face changed, like someone finally understanding the language they'd been pretending not to hear. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did, I said. It's automatic with the transfer, temporary authority. Her voice cracked. This is punishment. I shook my head. This is structure. You're confusing the two because structure never applied to you before. She stood up, pacing now. You're trying to scare him? I don't need to, I said. Reality does that for free. Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, then at me. He's outside, she said. He wants to talk? I closed the laptop. That makes sense, I said. People always want to talk right before consequences introduce themselves. She stepped in front of me, blocking the hallway. Please, she said quietly, not commanding anymore. Just don't escalate this. I met her eyes. You escalated it when you decided I was temporary. The doorbell rang, long, confident, like someone still believed volume mattered. I walked past her. The street was already awake in that fake suburban way, curtains half pulled, phones held too casually, interest pretending to be coincidence. Eli stood on the walkway, jaw tight, posture loud. He looked angry, not dangerous, which told me everything. This stops now, he said. You went behind my back. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. No, I said calmly. I stepped out of your blind spot. He laughed once, sharp and nervous. You think paperwork scares me? I don't think about what scares you, I replied. I think about what follows you. He took a step forward, then noticed the neighbors, the cameras, the attention. I didn't move. You've already lost your car, I said. Your access, your leverage, and your timing. He swallowed. She told me you were nothing. I nodded. She says that about people when she needs them compliant. Calla appeared in the doorway behind me, pale and silent. Eli turned to her. You said he wouldn't do anything. She didn't answer. That was the moment he understood he'd been standing on borrowed confidence. I leaned in slightly, not threatening, just close enough that he had to listen. If you show up here again, I said quietly, every assumption you've been living on becomes public knowledge, not rumors, patterns. His eyes flicked to the phones, the witnesses. I stepped back. This is your warning, I added. It's also your exit. For a long second, he stood there, weighing pride against survival. Then he nodded once, backed away, left. No shouting, no scene. That was the scene. Inside, Calla was shaking. It's over, she said. Please, just end this. I picked up my bag. It is over, I said. That's why I'm leaving. Outside, a car started. Somewhere, a door closed. Interest faded. I walked down the steps, past the life I'd outgrown, and didn't look back. Because revenge doesn't need violence. It needs timing, witnesses, and a clean stop. And this one ended exactly where it was supposed to. I made it halfway down the block before my phone vibrated again. Not a call, a message from Eli. She lied to both of us. I stopped walking. Didn't turn around, didn't sit, just stood there on the edge of the sidewalk while the house behind me pretended it was none of its business. Another message followed. I didn't know about the money or the transfer. She said you were stuck. Stuck. I typed with one hand. You believed what benefited you. 3 dots appeared. Froze. Disappeared. That was it. Behind me, the front door opened. Calla's voice carried down the street, sharp with panic now that silence had stopped obeying her. Wait. I turned. She was standing on the porch barefoot, coat thrown over her shoulders like she hadn't planned on chasing anything today. The neighbors were still watching, pretending not to, but she didn't seem to care anymore. You can't just leave like this, she said. You're doing this on purpose. I walked back just close enough that she could hear me without the audience. I told you to deal with it, I said quietly. You chose how? Her eyes filled again. You're ruining my life. I nodded once. Yes? Not angry, not loud, just accurate. She looked past me down the street like she was hoping Eli might still be there, like someone else might pick up what she'd dropped. No one did. I didn't think you'd fight back, she said. I smiled then, small, unkind. I didn't fight, I said. I stepped aside. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I took my phone from my pocket and turned it off completely. The click felt final. I walked away for the second time, and this time she didn't follow. Behind me, the house stood exactly where it always had, just without a role for me anymore, which was fine. Because the thing about being a stand-in is this. Once you leave the stage on your own terms, everyone else has to perform without you, and that's when the real panic starts. I reached the end of the block, didn't look back, and the story stopped there. I reached my car and unlocked it, the sound cutting cleanly through the quiet street. Behind me, Calla was still standing on the porch. She hadn't moved, hadn't called out again. That was new. Silence had finally stopped working for her. I opened the driver's door. My phone buzzed once more before I shut it inside the car. One last message. From her. If you leave now, there's no coming back. I sat down slowly, closed the door, and rested my hands on the wheel. For a moment, I just looked straight ahead. The empty road, the pale morning light, the way the neighborhood suddenly felt temporary. I typed my reply carefully. That was your condition, not mine. I sent it. Then I blocked the number. Not in anger, in completion. In the side mirror, I saw her finally sit down on the porch steps, head in her hands, alone, but not dramatically.